I've often talked about preparation and opportunity, and there have been plenty of examples of opportunity coming a fighter's way. And when a fighter has prepared, they can seize opportunities by the horns. And some are more adept at it than others. And in the case of a fighter like Anthony Joshua, who definitely had potential to exceed expectations of those who could really look at what his gifts were, where his shortcomings happened to be, and how plans could be made for him to be a better fighter. But somehow, some way along the way, money became what was the agenda. And Joshua is one that I can consider unfulfilled potential. Let's talk about this, as well as hear a couple of veteran scribes who could share their insight on it as well. The path of a fighter and how he finds himself meeting up with the potential of what boxing has to offer for him. There's oftentimes a fighter can end up in a bad place, in a bad space. And Anthony Joshua has undergone some questionable circumstances that maybe he should not have even faced had he been prepared properly. Sometimes when the bag is all there is, key details could be skipped along the way. And he has himself to blame for that, because he has chosen certain people to guide his career. But even in doing so, it should not be overlooked that the man has made mistakes and could have been or fared better had he just simply taken the opportunity at what was really at his disposal, and that was quality trainers and handlers. that could help him see a landscape. Joshua is now, 34 years old or something like that, 35? He's getting to be up there in age. And I remember when he first had his hand on the IBF world title. Things looked up for him. But the division has now moved on. But certain individuals haven't moved on. And so I was listening to Talk Sport Boxing and Scribes, Gareth A. Davies, and Tom Gray from Ring Magazine had something to say about the heavyweight division. And even now, they are disenchanted by what's going on in the sport. And it's an amazing thing to witness, because between the two of these men, they have almost 3 decades plus of experience with boxing, right? Maybe 4 decades. But where's the real knowledge of what's best for a fighter? I listen to these men talk, and they really sound like they want to see guys cut corners and not be the best, but get the best of opportunity. Sounds an awful lot like business, doesn't it? Doesn't sound like sports competitiveness. But let's just give a listen to some of the things that they had to offer, and you'll see exactly what I mean.
Let's go through that heavyweight division. I'm going to pull up the Ring heavyweight rankings for this. So, Alexander Usyk, we know he's either going to fight Daniel Dubois or maybe Joseph Parker. We don't absolutely know at this moment in time. Tyson Fury's in abeyance right now. Daniel Dubois taken up number 2, Joseph Parker's 3, Kabayel's 4. What would you see for Kabayel at the moment?
Maybe the winner of, I don't know, maybe the winner of Bicoli and a Jagba, you know, something like that. Because listen, nobody's even talking about Kabayel getting a shot. And look at the job he just did on Zhang. And then the fight before that, I was blanking this. I want to say Makhmudov.
Frank Sanchez.
Guy's,
Frank Sanchez.
He beat him, but then he beat Makhmudov in
he was brilliant on
that
night. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
This guy as well, it's kind of like Parker, where what does he need to do? Everything's going on above these guys and they can't get in the mix. So I don't want to see them fight each other. I think that would be completely unfair. I want them to get the title shot. The problem...
Now, you see, he says, that's Tom Gray speaking, he doesn't want to see them fight each other, meaning Kabayel and Parker. But when it was one champion, guys like that had to fight one another. You see, this is the disenchantment that I was speaking about. They both have been fighting good and great fights. However, Kabayel just defeated Zhilei Zhang, who was the #1 contender. A guy who beat Joseph Parker, but had Parker down twice. And that stupid decision that they got out of it, where they had a rematch clause, and Parker ducked the rematch. Now, what they are going to give the impression to you all is that they wish the belts were scattered again, so the guys can fight for vacant titles. But if you beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, you are the man. Lifting up vacant titles that had no ownership or propriety because someone vacated, that's not a winning formula. That's not something to feel great about. And when we look at fighters like Kabayel, who has done great work in the ring, you expect him to be compensated. A world title shot is there, but Usyk still has unfinished business. Whether he wants to face Joseph Parker, Cabiel, or Daniel Dubois in a rematch, which the Dubois rematch seemingly has a lot more flavor and color to it, right? And you can't say that you wouldn't watch it because we know the first fight had controversy surrounding it. But to hear these men talk and the way that they speak up on matters, there's something underlying here, which is why we're going over this.
Usyk holds so many of the belts at the minute, which is a good thing, because you really only have, with all respect to Daniel Dubois, Usyk as the champion, and we all know it. If the titles were more fragmented, these guys would probably get a shot easier, but it's waiting around for the right thing to happen. Difficult for Cabiel at the minute. His brain trust will want him to get a title fight, so I can't see him fighting Joe Parker. It's going to have to be
it's a great
contender.
fight, by the way.
It's brilliant fight.
Now, you see, they both admit it's a great fight. That's who should be fighting. If Dubois is getting a rematch with Usyk, why should these guys just sit around eating cupcakes or feasting on cupcakes in the ring instead of facing one another? Because this is how you knock off the fat. When you find out, you get to who's the best, because it's the man waiting in the wings, the #1 contender to the heavyweight championship can be defined by these guys who are not title holders facing one another. And they seemingly just don't want to endorse what I'm speaking on. But you know that Parker, though he has victories over a few names like Wilder and the Zhang fight, which I don't think he really won that fight. He was downed twice. And typically when you're putting guys on the canvas like that, the other guy does not get the win. But somebody is hoping for Parker to get up there. For what? I remember Parker being stopped by Joe Joyce. I remember Parker being defeated by Dillian White. But they say he's improved. Has he really? Or is the division really starting to settle, and that the youthful guys like a Cabiel are coming on strong and they've got something to say in the sport? I think that's it more than anything. But see, they're not going to tell you that because they want to continue to create a little bit of interference. Yeah, they run that interference, and then you are left to see what's left.
See, those two is fight each other for a world title because it merits that.
Yeah.
But what I
A vacant.
Yeah, exactly. What I understand in the background is that they're looking to get Cabiel in a big fight in Germany to try and resurface that kind of big stadium feel. There was even talk at one point about him fighting, you won't like this, fighting Vladimir Klitschko in a fight in Germany for one night. I know, I roll. Well done, you did the right thing, you rolled your eyes. Yeah, but I think you've been to fights in Germany. It's got a big market if the opponents are right, and I think Cabiel's become a little bit of a German star right now. I mean, I remember going there probably 10, 12 times for Vladimir Klitschko's title defenses against all those Americans that came over that never believed they could beat him anyway.
Now see, those are the kind of things that these guys have dined on for years. He just talked about Klitschko pulling American fighters overseas for victories that nobody felt like they were going to win anyway. Hostile environment, also a potential for corrupt environment, tainted circumstances. It's happened more than a few times. But they won't talk about that. They'll only ridicule and make certain types of comments where they could kind of halfway, half-ass allude to something, but you could tell that there's something else afoot. So I like to pay attention when they talk like this, because it lets you know what their real thoughts and feelings are. These two men, like I said, have been around the sport a long time, and they know exactly of what I'm speaking, but they're not going to tell you, and they're not going to pretend like they don't know what's going on. They let you know that they know what's going on. You see, but we'll get back to Joshua, because we want to know what is going on. What turned that fighter into a guy who actually ended up looking like this at a press conference after a defeat? You see, the truth is right in front of your face, consistently. Right in front of your face. Yeah. So listen carefully.
And Hergovich. Well, Hergovich
Well-
to do with Joyce, isn't
Joyce. Yeah, I was going to say there actually, just to backtrack for a second. I think Gabriel against the winner of Joyce and Hergovich
he? Right,
is
Great.
a decent fight. That keeps that section moving at least, and I would favour Gabriel against any of them. Joshua is in a unique position. Like these guys, like Parker and Gabriel, they can't get a title shot. Anthony Joshua could literally sit back, let this play out, and someone will eventually turn around and say, let's give Anthony Joshua a title shot because he sold out a stadium, or you know, it's going to be a massive event. Whoever he fights, like they can repackage this and make it like the you know, we can rebuild AJ, we can do it again, and people will gravitate towards it, because now he almost comes into many of these fights as an underdog, or a lot of people really worried that he's going to get chinned. But that's the benefit of being Anthony Joshua, who is a product and a commodity, and let's face it, an amazing prize fighter. He's a great fighter. I need to watch my terms there. He's a terrific fighter, and I can see him getting another title shot. It wouldn't surprise me if Joshua get a title shot before Gabriel.
Or before
You know what I
Parker.
mean?
Because
Now see, Tom Gray let you know something. I told you they'll tell you something right in front of your face. He initially was going to say Joshua is a great fighter. Let me temper that. He's an amazing fighter, huh? But not great. See, words are powerful. How many times have I said this? He's talking about a guy who has been flopped around the ring by Daniel Dubois, the present IBF title holder, Dubois. And he hasn't even come back from that. But they are talking about they would like to see Joshua in for another title shot because he sells tickets. No. That whole thing about selling tickets is a bunch of crap. We've watched other fighters fill the stadiums over in the UK. Joshua isn't the only one who fills the stadium. Many people go to the fights to watch him because he is such a vulnerable fighter. And he seems to say things that a non-confident fighter would say on the regular. He's vulnerable. But see, I don't find humor in that, and I don't find it to be something to sell to an audience. Here's a man who has had some flaws, and they haven't been able to fill the gaps of the flaws of what he's had with his career. And it's a shame, because there are people who could guide and help and assist, but they really rather just grab the bags. How much of this have we seen and will continue to see? And alas, Daniel Dubois is the man right now, and they're still talking about Joshua. Do you see this image of Joshua on the canvas? That is about as vulnerable as you can be in a boxing match. And they talk about this as if it's so casual. Dubois deserves the rematch with Usyk on neutral ground, or maybe even in the UK. Hell, at Wembley, the O2. But he deserves that opportunity. Parker, who once held the WBO title and at the time would refuse to face Deontay Wilder in a unification. Instead, he went and ransomed that title to Hearn and AJ, who fixed a fight for him against AJ where he could not get close to AJ. The referee would not allow Parker to get within range of smelling AJ's cologne. Anytime they came in close proximity, the referee was in there to separate them. And of course, Joshua being the taller guy with the longer reach, needed to work from distance, and Parker needed to work up close. They didn't allow it. So he rendered his services to the Joshua camp and then later to Tyson Fury's camp. But now, since someone else has a belt, he must have a title shot now. He didn't try to ask for a rematch against Joshua. He didn't try to fight Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury had hold and possession of the WBC title. So why these guys are not talking about these kind of things? You see, there's more to this than meets the eye, which is why I say outside of Dubois needing that shot against the likes of Usyk, Cabiel, because he beat down Zhang. They were just waiting for someone to have an opportunity to do away with Zhang because they didn't want that Chinese man to have a world title. Could Zhang have beat Tyson Fury? More than likely, yes. Could Zhang have beaten Anthony Joshua? More than likely, yes. Could Zhang have defeated Alexander Usyk? That's interesting because Usyk knows how to fight big men, and Zhang is a heck of a punching guy. But they made certain that they put plenty of roadblocks up. The likes of Hrgovic, Parker, and then Cabiel. You see, to prevent it from taking place. But this is what happens out there. And these guys are not genuine when they speak about these fighters. Let's continue to listen to the foolishness.
Imagine if Dubois beats Usyk, and I don't think he does beat him, by the way. Don Charles won't like me for that, and he can rag me out for another half an hour. That if Dubois wins, even if it's a close fight with Usyk, they may do it again, of course, and have a trilogy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Joshua's in line for a rematch with Dubois at some point as well, so he could get that title shot. Like you say, this is a sport, but it's also a business, and it will always be a business. And Anthony Joshua is big business. The fight with Fury is still one of the richest fights in the world if they can get both men in a ring together anytime within the next, let's say, 12 months.
You see how they talk? Nobody cares about Fury and Joshua fighting one another. That fight is probably 7 years stale. They both have lost. They both have been shown to be not what they were thought to be. And it's a great domestic fight. Yeah, for the UK. But if boxing is big business on a big scale, nobody gives a damn about Fury and Joshua. You see, I told you, these guys tell on themselves. They talk the talk. But then, when reason comes into play, you recognize, oh, yeah, something's wrong here. And you can see. Fury said he's retired. Let him be. If he's going to come back, he'll come back. But why continue to talk him up? He said he's retired. He's enjoying his family life. Let him do that. We should have let him do that years ago. But Cabiel and Dubois are fighters that are prominent today. They're the best of the young crop. And they keep throwing all of these diversions and roadblocks and stumbling blocks in front of what should be truly acknowledged. You've seen the best of Anthony Joshua. He's 35 years old now. Daniel Dubois is 26 years old. But they don't want to embrace that. They don't want to embrace the fighters who are doing great in the sport. And I'm here to be very critical on that because I know the difference. I'm pulling for Cabiel to face another tough fighter before going in for a championship. The likes of Joseph Parker would be excellent. But they're not going to put Parker in there. You see, because they need to have those stumbling blocks and diversions and roadblocks. You see, they were trying to bring Dillian White back before he got injured in training. A terrible weightlifting situation that hurt his finger. It's a legitimate thing. But see, they'll continue to try to do that. But all you do is add more men to the lineup, but they've got to face one another. It's okay for them to be around, but it's better for them to face one another. Stop playing with our psyches. There's only a handful of fighters in the heavyweight division that people would really want to see face one another. And after that, it's every man for himself. I'm glad the titles are unified between Usyk and Dubois because they happen to be the two best heavyweights out there. And if they're going to fight a rematch, I don't think there'll be a trilogy fight because I do believe Dubois stops Usyk in a rematch. He's grown by leaps and bounds each and every time that he's had setbacks. And I respect that. And with a trainer like Don Charles and his dad in his corner like they are, they can prepare him to deal with anything that boxing has to offer. And you can bet your ass that he's not going to sign a lifetime deal to any promoter, whether it be Frank Warren, whom he's currently with, or the likes of Hearn, or whomever else may be there when his present contract runs out. Let's see this guy do his thing. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Leave comments and let me know what you think about this video editorial. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.